Hello, everyone, and thank you for on this virtual conversation. Hopefully, you still have energy to log in yet to another virtual conversation in the midst of our situation. So my name is Daniel Dominguez. I work for Every Neighborhood Partnership in the area of neighborhood development. So think of maybe like a community organizer. And working towards holistically seeing neighborhoods transformed in a positive way, and doing that work primarily in Southwest Fresno. Today I really wanted to bring to you some information and some ideas and invite you into a posture really overall as a learner, to take the posture of a learner, which is actually one of E&P's values as an organization. So it fits in really well with who we are and what we try to do as employees of E&P on a regular basis. And I've titled it real simple, just values and guidelines to having healthy, thoughtful, and life-giving conversations as you engage with others in your everyday life. These values and guidelines really can get put into practice and really kind of worked out, meaning learn how to use them well in your place of where you live, in your place of home. So if you live with your family and you have siblings, or even with your parents or whoever it is that you live with, maybe you have some roommates, really the ideal setting to kind of put these into practice would be there. And the goal here is that they become kind of a natural way of engaging with others. And as we go out into the community, when a research project or just going to buy some groceries, that these will kind of be ways we engage. And then another caveat I want to make sure I mention here is that these values and guidelines really are really important and really helpful when we're engaging conflict, especially with somebody else, right? Somebody that we may have a conflict with. These values and guidelines can really help us transition well through a conflict. Important word there is well. With the continued relationship, right? So let's get started. The first four I have are heart equity values. And really these first four, these heart values, are the posture that we would take ourselves, right? So as we engage in conversation, as we engage other people, what are the values that I am going to enter that space into with, right? And so the first one, I'll just read it and then I'll give a little context to each one. So the heart, leading from the heart and from love. Love of self, others, and the community is the compass for action and inaction. Using emotions as vital information, having the courage to fearlessly speak the truth, stepping into a place of discomfort and risk-taking, voicing the minority point of view. So we lead from the heart, right? And really, I think this value of heart is that I am a valuable person. I have meaningful and insightful things to share and to contribute to a conversation. And so if I do, that means the other does as well, right? So leading from the heart, right? We want to be sincere and we want to be authentic. So leading from the heart. And really what I want to point out here is that first sentence that ends with, the heart is the compass for action and inaction. So we are driven from our heart to take action on an issue, but there's also the inaction part, right? Where again, if I feel I have something valuable and something good to contribute to a conversation, then if I believe that, then I also believe that other people have valuable and good things to contribute to a conversation, and I will take an act of inaction to allow others to maybe share their thoughts and ideas before I share mine, right? So the action is like, hey, this is how I'm going to share what I'm going to share. But the inaction is like, let me listen a little bit longer and first hear what the other has to say. So that's one example of what it would look like to have the posture of inaction, right? All right, moving on. Knowledge, seeking wisdom and yearning to know, engaging with others from a place of curiosity. It is not what we know that drives us. It is our ability to continue learning, starting with self. Be a learner, right? So we know that knowledge equals power. And to gain knowledge, we have to seek it out. We have to ask questions, right? To be a learner means to ask questions and to take a learner's posture. I really think of being slow to speak and quick to listen, right? So, how can I listen first before I actually say something with the learner's posture? Or if somebody says something to me, what is a question I could ask to maybe gain some more insight to better understand their position or their perspective, right? So, always seeking to learn more from the other. Um, Really, really helpful posture to take when engaging with other people. Moving on, collectivism, extending from our commitment to family, putting the common good ahead of self-interest, bringing others along, and being a bridge builder. Collectivism. I like to think of collectivism as kind of the action step. How is it that I will live into the value of taking action on behalf of others? Well, it tells us like this is rooted in the commitment to family, right? Or commitment to the what may be best for the whole, right? Or best for the group, or best for the team, right? What is the best thing I could do that would help everybody in this situation, as opposed to just really trying to find, success for myself. So, what does that look like? To think of in that way as I engage with others. How can we all come out on top in this situation? And in that, I'm a bridge builder, right? Especially if we're working within a group of people, some roommates again, or maybe it's your home setting where you're with your family. How can I work to be a bridge builder between that core group of people? So again, so that we all come out ahead together. Collectivism. Moving on to the last value, heart value, here's a word. Holding ourselves accountable to behave with integrity, aligning personal behavior to fairness, honoring commitments, and speaking truthfully. There's the old adage, the truth hurts, right? True can be true in a lot of situations, but I think there's also ways that we can bring truth with grace, right? So that doesn't maybe have to be as damaging or as hurtful. And really, where that comes from is that you want to be as honest as possible, right? So the key word here in this definition is integrity. We want to behave with integrity. How can I be open and honest, right? So that we all end up better at the end of this conversation. But to do that with integrity, again, not to have any selfish motive when moving forward in a conversation. So again, kind of to recap our heart equity values, the posture that we will bring into a conversation is we will lead from the heart, knowing that we have something positive to contribute to a conversation. And if that is true, therefore others also have something positive and good to share into a conversation, which may mean we take a posture of inaction, right? Knowledge, always asking questions. Hey, tell me more about what you mean behind that, right? Always wanting to be a learner. Collectivism, how do I operate in this setting so that we all come out ahead? And then being honest, the word, right? Being honest, being a person of integrity. All right, those are the 4 values that we'll take practice to constantly nurture into our daily lives and daily routines. But I guarantee you, if you begin to do that, you'll have some much more fruitful conversations. So some guidelines, what we're going to move into next. Some guidelines. So we have the values, right? The posture that I will take as I engage and enter into a conversation. What are some guidelines that I may want to be thinking through as the conversation's happening, right? So think of these of the how-tos, right? How do I actually do this now? So the first one, try on. You may think about maybe when you're going to buy some new clothes, you're not sure if this is the right size, or if this color looks good on you, or if it's too baggy, it's too tight, right? So you got to try it on. So you try it on, right? And then you get a feel for it. Yeah, kind of like the way it feels, kind of don't. Put it back on the rack, take it home. It's the same way with this guideline of try on as you engage a conversation. Let's read it. When we hear something that feels outside of our comfort zone or knowledge base, consider it before immediately rejecting it. That's the last part is the key. Consider it. Just like trying on that item of clothing, right? Consider first the idea that the other is conveying, and ask yourself, I wonder what that would be like. Or, could that really work? Or you can try it on internally as you process it, and then go back to one of the values and wanting to gain knowledge. You can ask a question, right? I'm trying your idea out Can you tell me more about that? Right? Really, really simple guideline to utilize as you engage with others. Try on. Next one, practice self focus using I statements. Typo there. Pay attention to what you are feeling and thinking, asking questions of self and others. Instead of jumping to conclusions, examine your assumptions. So this really ties in well with trying on, right? Trying on an idea or a thought. And then when responding, starting with I, what I think I hear you saying is, right? That's a different approach than saying what you said, right? Interesting that when I said that, my hand came up. And even this is a form of attack, right? To some, they may be like, whoa, you're kind of getting in my space there. So using the word you're projecting onto the other person your own thoughts and not necessarily what they're maybe trying to get across. So using I statements actually creates a space of humility, right? So I have to be open and transparent about what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling to the other person, right? Or other persons. But always, always a safe way to engage with others is to say, I think or I feel what you're saying, right? That kind of neutralizes the space. So practice self-focusing, really good step. And then the next is it's okay to disagree. Disagreement is a necessary part of accepting differences. It's okay. I'm not saying here that you have to accept or embrace. That's the good word. You don't have to embrace the other person's perspective, right? But you may need to accept it and accept that it's different than yours. And it's even better when the other person's okay to agree to disagree, right? So how do I hear somebody's thoughts out? How do I ask questions and be a learner? How do I try it on? Practice the I statements and then say at the end, like, hey, I really value what you have to say. I think I see things a little bit different, but I'm okay with that, right? Again, it's not about trying to change the world in one conversation here. And so it's important to know that we can disagree. It's okay. Moving on. It's not okay to attack or blame self or others. This can happen on a verbal or non-verbal level. So earlier I said what I heard you say, right? That's a form of attack, as I was explaining. This is working towards somebody. It really causes somebody to feel like you're getting in their bubble, getting in their space. The word you, right, is I'm coming at you. You said or what you did, right? We probably had some of those experiences in our life where somebody was telling us that, or we were actually telling somebody else, right? So just be cautious of that. Don't blame, right? Again, be a learner. But the important one here is that it's not okay to blame yourself either. I heard this one time as I went through a training on these values and guidelines was sometimes we will say, yeah, but, right? I know what you're saying, but, so, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit later about using the language of both and, but the but is a canceling, right? I'm canceling out what the other person is saying, but oftentimes we do that to ourselves, right? Like we'll say a comment or there's a conversation in the class and we have an idea of what could be a solution. We share that, but I'm not sure. That's how we end the statement, right? So, I mean, not necessarily doesn't feel like a blame or an attack, but it does discount what we said internally, right? We're like, maybe I shouldn't have said that, right? Don't do that, right? It's not okay. Build yourself up. Don't build yourself down, right? So don't blame yourself. That's just really, really key. Allow yourself a lot of grace. That's important. Moving on. Practice self-focus. Oops, that got put in there twice. Excuse me. Sorry, another typo there. We're moving on to the next one. Practice both and thinking. Instead of either or, this is what I was just talking about. Creating a space where others may feel dismissed, work towards creating a space where everyone feels included. Use and when responding to someone's comment instead of but, right? So somebody sharing something, instead of saying like, yeah, but, and then sharing your idea, hearing them out and saying, actually affirming them, right? Like, hey, that's interesting thought. You're trying it on, right? Interesting thought. And what I also believe it to be true is, right? So I tried on the thought, right? And I even affirmed them in their perspective and their thought. and I included them in what I'm about to share as well. Now I'm creating a space for conversation, right? Now I'm creating a space for dialogue. I'm inviting them in the conversation by saying and. Whoever thought one little word, three little word could have such a significant impact? It does. So again, flip that example to using but. Somebody shares something, but what I believe to be true is, so I'm saying squashed, not true. Here's what I think is true, elevating my own self, right? But it's, again, a different feel as we're engaging conversation. So both and, right? So how do we use that word and instead of but when working with others? I guarantee you it will change the tonality of the conversation entirely. All right. Being aware of intent and impact is the next one. This is a really good guideline here. Hearing the impact of our actions without automatically defending them and ourselves gives those we interact with the opportunity to share valuable information about how to best build relationships across differences. So intent and impact. This one can be a little bit tricky, but you may say something and have the intent of saying something positive, right? But the impact that the person receives or feels is not exactly what you had intended for them to get from your comment. Or somewhere on social media, a wife trying on a dress, right? She asked her husband, how do I look in this? And the husband, he's on his phone or whatever, and he kind of quickly glances over. It's like, yeah, you look fine. And the impact to the wife is like, what do you mean I just look fine? Like, I've been working out nonstop for 3 months. I have a 2-year-old baby, et cetera, et cetera. The story goes on, right? She's like, and I just look fine, right? The husband's like, I think you look fine. That's a really good thing, right? The intent was really good from the husband's perspective, but the impact that it had on the wife was not what he had intended, right? So again, be aware as you engage with other people, how you're saying things and what tone you're using, the posture you're carrying as you engage others, because all those play a part on the impact side of what you intend to say or to communicate to others. And that's a really good, just a really good skill to begin working on. It'll take some time to really fine tune that. But again, another good guideline as we engage with others. All right. And the last one is maintain confidentiality. Anything said of a personal nature cannot be shared outside of this room without the person's permission. If you want to talk to someone about what they said, ask for permission. This one's really, really important, especially when engaging others in the area of conflict. It could even be an intimate space. Somebody's disclosing something that they're going through, and they need somebody to confide in. And so they're sharing with you and hoping that you can be a shoulder to lean on or can give them some advice. We have to respect what they're sharing with us, the other person or persons is sharing with us, right? And I've done this in the past when I'm working with a group of people, and as we kind of come to a close, like ask everybody to raise their hand that commits to confidentiality. What was said here stays here, right? And then really asking everybody to literally raise their hand. Feels a little weird, with 2 or 3 people in the room, but it lets everybody in the conversation know that we all heard and we all agreed to confidentiality. Cannot emphasize this one enough. Because again, it goes back to one of those heart values, right, of integrity. We want to be honest, we want to be sincere, and we want to value the other person, right? Because they are valuable people, just as we are valuable. So maintaining confidentiality is really a plus. So be careful what you post on social media after you have a conversation with some folks, or especially working through a conflict. Retain that confidentiality, and then you will always retain trust and just have a lot more fruitful conversations after that. All right, folks. So this again was values and guidelines on how to engage others in our day-to-day lives. Again, a great place to begin trying these out and putting them into practice is your place of home, whatever that looks like for you, especially with those that you live close to. Yeah. So anyways, Thanks for joining me on this. Hopefully these values and guidelines will be helpful for you, not only in these years as a college student, but for the rest of your life. All right, signing off here.